Now for the news for December 7th. Yesterday, the Civil Air Patrol was formed in a ceremony in New York City. The organization is a nonprofit which will serve to provide search and rescue services and aviation education. In Europe, King Leopold of Belgium was married to Lillian Bales of London in a private ceremony. And in sports, first to baseball, Mel Ott, nicknamed Master Melvin, was named player-coach of the New York Baseball Giants. And in Cleveland, Lou Boudreau was named player-manager of the Cleveland Indians at only 25 years of age. You remember Boudreau. He stopped Joe DiMaggio's 56-game hitting streak on a hard grounder in the ninth just last season. Turning into NFL football, there are 3 games in the States today. Brooklyn Dodgers at the New York Giants, Washington Redskins at the Philadelphia Eagles, the Chicago Bears at the Chicago Cardinals. If the Bears win, they will tie the Green Bay Packers for the Western Division title, which will result in the first ever divisional playoff game in NFL history. The winner will play the New York Football Giants in the NFL title game. And now, more serious note, some war news. Many U.S. politicians publicly wonder how long the U.S. can stay out of the war in Europe. Now back to music. The number 1 hit in the land, Glenn Miller's Chattanooga Choo Choo.
Chattanooga Choo Choo, run it down again. Let's go. 1.
Ladies and gentlemen, we interrupt this broadcast to bring you breaking news. The Japanese have attacked Pearl Harbor. It's December 7th, 1941, and you are there. Try to imagine your confusion as the first bombs explode, the first sirens and alarms sound. Right here, right now, listen. Listen to the sounds of battle. Hear the sirens just as they did. Feel the explosions hammer your chest just as they did. Smell the smoke as it burns your nostrils just as they did that fateful Sunday morning. Look, listen, and remember, for we must never forget. 6 Japanese carriers poised 250 miles north of the island launched the 185 airplanes of the first wave of the Japanese strike force at 0620 Hawaii time. They used the Honolulu radio station playing popular songs to guide them to their fateful destination. As the airplanes approached, operators at a Pona radar station spot the strike force and report it to their superiors. The officer in charge mistakes the strike force for a flight of B-17s arriving from the mainland. No report is made. The destroyer USS Ward identifies and sinks a Japanese mini-sub trying to enter Pearl Harbor. The report attacked to Naval Command, but the report is ignored, awaiting verification. In Washington, military intelligence has broken the Japanese diplomatic code, but the report does not reach Pearl Harbor until after the attack. At 0753, Lieutenant Masao Fujita, the strike leader for the Japanese, keyed his radio to transmit those now famous words, Tora, 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 signifying the Japanese had achieved complete surprise. The Japanese planes attack relentlessly. Many servicemen believe the attack is some kind of crazy air raid drill. They think the airplanes are American. In fact, one soldier remarks, "This is the best dang drill the Air Force has ever put on." But when the rising suns become visible on the wings of the airplane, everyone knows this is no drill. The highly coordinated attack goes off like clockwork. At 0755, bombers attack Wheeler and Hickam Air Force Base. 2 minutes later, torpedo planes, just like the ones you are seeing in front of you now, begin their attack on Battleship Row. Sleepy-eyed soldiers stumble outside to see Japanese airplanes everywhere, circling the skies, waiting to attack the ships lined up side by side like sitting ducks along Battleship Row in the middle of Pearl Harbor. They make great targets. In fact, the Japanese have designed new torpedoes capable of striking the ships in the shallow harbor, a technological advancement the Americans are sadly unaware of. To make matters worse, because of the threat of terror attacks, the American planes are parked wingtip to wingtip, making it easy for the Japanese to destroy them. Just 10 minutes into the battle, the USS Arizona, which has already taken a torpedo, has a bomb strike next to its number 2 turret. That 1,700-pound projectile penetrates deep into the belly of the ship. First through one deck, then two. It lodges and then detonates the number 2 magazine, and seconds later, the Arizona erupts like a volcano rising out of the harbor. Flames shooting over 500 feet into the air. Almost 1,200 men perish in that moment. Sent to a watery grave, those brave young men still rest in the hold of that great ship at the Arizona Memorial. A testament to their courage, their sacrifice, their honor. At 08:35, the first wave ends. The damage is horrendous. In Washington, early afternoon in the States, an hour after the attack began, Secretary of State Cordell Hull, well aware of what is transpiring in Hawaii, erupts when given a letter from the Japanese, breaking off peace talks. This day also has numerous stories of irony and heroism. The Nevada, on the south end of Fort Island, opens fire at 08:02, and although her captain and senior officers are not on board, Lieutenant Commander J.F. Thomas ignores his wounds and gets the ship underway, even with a huge hole in her port bow. He is able to beach the ship in the channel and not block the channel. Also on the Nevada, 21-year-old Joseph Tossick Jr., officer of the deck, mans an anti-aircraft battery and continues to direct fire at enemy aircraft even after a bullet passes through his thigh. He refuses to leave his comrades, refuses to leave the battle. There are also stories of irony and humor. The commander of naval forces on Hawaii, Admiral Husband Kimmel, is standing in front of a window, observing destruction, when a bullet breaks through the window and grazes his chest. He is unhurt, but the Admiral states, considering the circumstances, it would have been more merciful if I had been killed. Yeoman First Class Leonard Webb rushes to get his wife and child to the car. This is his story. When we're almost to the car, my wife says, the baby doesn't have any diapers. Get some. This is Armageddon, the end of the world, and my wife has me chasing diapers. As word of the extent of the devastation reaches Washington, the country is stunned. Later that day, President Franklin Roosevelt addresses a shocked nation.
December 7th, 1941. A date which will live in infamy. The United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan. The attack yesterday on the Hawaiian Islands has caused severe damage to American naval and military forces. I regret to tell you that very many American lives have been lost. With confidence in our armed forces, with the unbounding determination of our people, we will gain the inevitable triumph, so help us God.
At 10 o'clock, the last of the strike force makes its way back to the waiting carriers, and the Japanese ships begin the long journey back to Japan. The attack lasted only 120 minutes, but American bases lay in ruins, smoke billowing up from the devastation. 8 battleships, 3 cruisers, 3 destroyers, and 4 auxiliary ships, 18 ships in all, lay floundering in the oil-covered waters of Pearl Harbor. More than 350 aircraft stand broken or completely destroyed. In reality, America's Pacific Fleet has simply ceased to exist. But most horrific, 3,500 Americans lay dead or wounded in what remains of Pearl Harbor and Hickam Air Force Base. The Japanese lost 29 planes and less than 200 men. The Army and Navy spend the rest of the day attending to the wounded and putting out fires. The Arizona alone burns for 3 days. Ladies and gentlemen, as the airplanes form up to come around for one last pass, let me tell you the rest of the story. Yes, President Roosevelt issued a call to arms, and America listened. No one expected the surprise attack that fateful day. America was not ready for war, but America responded. America pulled together, and America, your country, was victorious. Young men joined the armed forces to defend this nation. Women began working in factories, working long, hard hours to energize industry and produce the needed materials to send a nation to war. Families rationed food and gasoline and many other items, sacrificing their own needs for the good of a nation. Liberty Gardens sprung up around the country so food could be sent to troops abroad. An entire nation refused to give in, refused to quit, refused to allow democracy to be destroyed. This nation stood strong, stood proud, and in the face of adversity, against all odds, this nation, your nation, prevailed. But this was not the first time the United States has been challenged, threatened, or tested, and it will not be the last. Right now, as we enjoy this wonderful day here in Monroe, North Carolina, our sons, daughters, husbands, wives, uncles, cousins, friends, our countrymen are defending America in far-off lands, sacrificing so you and I might enjoy the lasting tradition of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We must never forget those who have sacrificed to make sure America stays strong. Please remember those brave young men and women. I would ask, when you see someone in uniform, go up to them, look them in the eye, shake their hand, and say, "We are proud of what you do, and thank you." But this is not just a story about this nation or those who have served. It's about each and every one of you listening to me today. You can make a difference. You can be strong. Listen to me, Monroe, North Carolina. We are part of the greatest nation in the world. Put your hands together if you believe that. I hope today we have stirred something in your heart and soul and made you feel proud to be an American. Ladies and gentlemen, we are Tora, Tora, Tora! I want you to take this moment and savor what we have and pledge to become involved in your community, your government, your surroundings. We must not become spectators to our own destiny. Ladies and gentlemen, the Commemorative Air Force, an organization of thousands worldwide, is committed to the preservation of aviation history. We appreciate your support. We would love for you to visit our museum in Midland, Texas. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together. Please thank our pilots, Mark Allen, Mike Burke, Patrick Hutchins, Greg Hutain, Dan Reedy, Ron Wright, Mark Todd, and Bob Watts. Out on the pyro field, we have our shooter in charge, Ted Meminger. As the narrator told you, my wife, Ginger Goward. I am Roger Goward. We are Tora, Tora, Tora on behalf of the Tora team. Have a wonderful day. Be safe, be prosperous, and most important, be proud to be an American. Thank you.
Thank you, Roger. Well, that was great. Tell Ginger that we appreciate the little extra on the wall of fire. Great job by Tora, Tora, Tora. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I told you to hang around till the fat lady sing. So you saw when she roared out right there, and Roger let you know when we end up today's program. Thank you, each and every one of you who came and joined us here today. I hope you've enjoyed it and had half as much fun as we did putting on the program for you today. On behalf of your production team that includes